Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Consumer. Today, I am talking about my consumption of the TV show Outer Range on Amazon. Let's start with the masculine and feminine scale. I would put this at about a 6 masculine, 4 feminine. It seems like it would be more of a masculine show set in Wyoming, a lot like Yellowstone, but there's there's a hippy dippy chick who does a bunch of hippie-like stuff that women would probably enjoy. There's some dude fights, which women tend to enjoy as well, and it's not exactly as masculine as something like Yellowstone. Now let's move on to the serious and light. I would put this show at a 10 serious. There's very little light brevity in this show. It's a high drama, and yeah. Whether it's serialized or procedural, this is 100% serialized. There's no procedural aspects of this show. It's a straight story, a straight plot. Can you watch this in the background? Yeah, I would put it at probably a 9 background. There's not a lot that happens in this show. It's very dialogue driven with very long scenes of music and scenery. I find quite boring, but people might like that. Whether it is woke or normal, I would put it on a 3 or 4 woke scale. For the most part, it's a relatively normal show, but out of nowhere, they pop in a American Indian who is also a lesbian running for sheriff, and it kind of feels forced and out of place and doesn't really belong. They do a whole section dedicated just to show that they are one of the first shows to have a lesbian Native American who is running for sheriff. Campy or pretentious. This is a 10 out of 10 on the pretentious. There's no camp to it. It's all just very pretentious of this show. Lowlights of the show. It's going to have very long scenery shots. It's just going to show long shots of Wyoming while it plays music. Each episode, there's probably 5 minutes of this, and I find it tedious and boring. And sometimes this could work if the show has developed the characters, and so it's giving you a moment to reflect on the show. It has not done that. I find the show to be very boring and slow. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's got an interesting plot. But the next flaw, little payoff. Nothing really happens. Like, you got a hole in the ground, and there's a bunch of mysteries about the hole, and, doesn't really pay it off. It's kind of boring. I'm going to skip right to some similar consumables. It kind of feels like Lost and Yellowstone. However, it does the worst parts of both. The worst parts of Yellowstone and the worst parts of Lost. What am I mad at? The worst parts of Yellowstone is going to be the overdramatic portrayal of Wyoming life and scenery and wilderness. Just that whole, almost like a caricature of Wyoming life. And it doesn't have any of the interesting character dynamics that Yellowstone has. And then for the worst parts of Lost kind of gives you this sense of wonder and curiosity about what the hell's going on the island. The Outer Range has that. There's a big hole. I'm going to put that in the highlights. A big hole. Now, if you want a show with a big hole in it, this show's for you. It's got a big ass fucking hole. Big old hole in this show. And that's the primary concept of the hole. Hole either takes you back in time or a parallel universe. And yeah, I will put intriguing plot. Intriguing plot line. The plot in this story is very good. The story is not very good. The way the characters develop this plot is not very good. But if you were to read the plot on a bullet point of what happens, or cliff notes of what happens, this would probably be a pretty good cliff note show. Another con, I would say it's got above par acting. Josh Borland does good. Everybody else in the show does good. There's even a kid in there who's not an annoying kid. Seems like kid does pretty well. And in this show, you're going to be feeling a lot of confusion on what the fuck's going on and a lot of boredom. You're going to be confused. You're going to be bored. And I'd give this show a total of, oh man, this is tough. So IMDb puts it at like a 7.2. I think that's way too high. The way I score my total score is how many shows is this better than? If you're watching the show, it's likely going to be better than about 55% of all the other shows out there. Not that great, but a little above average. I would not recommend this show to pretty much anyone. There's several better shows to watch. I mean, you can watch Fringe, you can watch X-Files, you can watch Lost or Yellowstone, both of which are better. Yeah. And that is my consumption of The Outer Range. Consume something else.